I'm Jo Tongue. I work for Something Else, and today I'm going to talk to you about getting the best out of talent, specifically talent who are non-trained journalists. If you don't know who Something Else are, if you've been under a rock for the last 20 years, we are the UK's largest radio production company, but that's just part of what we do as a content design company. We make over 40 radio programmes a week, about 30 of which are for the BBC. I'm an exec producer at Something Else, so I'm responsible for all our sports output, namely 606 and our documentaries. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to take a celebrity, in this case a footballer, and make him sound good on the radio. So meet Robbie Savage. I'm sure you know Robbie. I met Robbie when he was a footballer, Premier League footballer, Wales international. He was a character, he was a pantomime villain. If you played for your team, you loved him. If you played against your team, you probably shouted a lot of abuse at him. The reason Robbie came to my attention was he was one of those footballers that in post-match interviews gave a little bit more than your stock answer. He was quite cocky, quite self-assured, but he was funny and actually quite self-deprecating with it. Robbie's a very flamboyant character, loved his cars, loved his clothes, loved his hair. Not many of us do, but he does. And he's got a ridiculous Armani tattoo on his arm. He was one of those characters that people spoke about. And I kind of thought, you know, especially for 606, which is an opinion-led show, Robbie's the kind of man that is not afraid to put his neck on the line and give his opinion. So approached Robbie about doing a show. It was kind of at a time of his life where he was coming to the end of his career. You know, he was of an age. I knew he might be thinking about what next. He'd done sort of a few. He was one of those footballers that kind of did the extra interviews when asked and seemed quite keen to talk on the radio. So had a lot of discussions with him, a lot of discussions with the club, and a lot of discussions with the BBC, actually, about whether it was right that a current Premier League, well, he's playing at Derby at the time, a current footballer should be on the airwaves. So it was a big deal. It took a lot of persuading for Robbie. It was a big deal for him to kind of take him out of his comfort zone, put him on the radio, and be exposed to football fans after playing 90 minutes of not-so-good football, especially as he was at Derby County at the time, and they weren't doing very well. So my brief to Robbie for the first show was just be yourself. You know, the reason that we've asked you to do this show is because you are opinionated. You have got a lot to say for yourself. So let's see if you can do it on the airwaves. And actually, for the first sort of 15 minutes of that first show, I don't think Robbie spoke apart from one-word answers. And it was just, you know, obviously putting him on that side of the microphone as opposed to this side, just throw him a little bit. But one of the things we did do for Robbie, and it's something to think about with, you know, when bringing non-radio talent into a radio environment, is Robbie had never really been in a radio studio, and for you and I who've grown up listening to radio and loving radio and probably did work experience at our local radio station when we were 15 years old, Robbie hadn't actually been in many radio studios. And so to say to him, right, come off a football pitch and sit in my radio studio and read a script and present a show, might have been too much for him. So what we agreed with the club is that we'd build Robbie a radio studio in the football ground, which sounds very glamorous, but you and I both know that that's an ISDN kit in a director's box that he can walk upstairs to after he's played 90 minutes for Derby. So he's kind of in his own environment. The idea was to make him feel that he was still in his own environment, he was still in his home, his football club, and we got him on the airways. And I'm just going to play you a clip of one of the first few weeks that Robbie did the show, when Robbie had kind of become a spokesman for footballers and was getting attacked from all angles of fans who were complaining that footballers were too far removed from your normal football fan.
606 on 5 Live.
I live in Wilmslow and I've seen you go into a shop and buy 7 pairs of trainers now.
Whoa, David. Well, that wasn't me, because that's a complete and utter lie. I have never bought 7 pairs of trainers in my life. So see, there again, footballers get bad names because of people like you, David, who make stupid things up.
Well, let me talk first.
7 pairs of trainers, that's a lie, David. So see, you give footballers bad names. No, Mark, you cannot say. See, this is why footballers get... Go on, David.
Well, basically, you bought them and you made this kid walk out and carry all your boxes for you while you stood there and carried nothing, and that is an epitome.
David, I tell you what now, you're a liar, because that's never happened.
Well, it has, because I was there.
I tell you what, David, it's a lie. It's a lie. It's never happened.
Well,
don't say I've bought 7 pairs of trainers in a shop and made a little boy carry them out, because it's never ever happened. So I'm going to tell you you're a liar, because it's never happened.
I saw it with my own eyes.
Well, you're a liar. I'm telling you it didn't happen. You're a liar.
So, as you can hear, it was very entertaining, but one thing it wasn't was controlled. And so something I had to work on with Robbie was although what I love about him is his passion and his rawness and his absolute horror that someone could accuse him of this. But, you know, I needed to get him thinking like a producer. And one of the things that when you're working with a trained presenter is you almost have another producer alongside you. Whereas with Robbie, he's not thinking about the whole show. He's just thinking, he's living in that moment. So, you know, one of the things to think about is how to adapt your working style to work with them. And one of those things was just to drip feed him. There was no point me going in at 6 o'clock and going, right, now the shape of the show today, at 6 o'clock we're going to talk about the main football results. At 6:30 we're going to widen it out, you know, to the bigger football issues this week. At 7 we're going to change the pace a bit and do this. I've lost him, he's gone. All he needed to know was, Robbie, here's the 3 headlines, that's what we're going with at the top, and we'll work from there. 2 years on, I can have that producer-presenter chat with him, but actually 2 years ago, that wasn't happening. Another thing to think about is your crack team, who you've got around him. This was Robbie's first experience of radio, so he needed the best producers, the best APs, the best BAs, the best guy on social media. Your shows, if you're getting someone like a footballer or a big name on your shows, people are going to talk about them. People are going to want him to fail. You know, they're going to be criticising him. He's going to feel stupid if it all goes wrong. You're going to feel stupid if it all goes wrong. You need your best team on it. Engage your presenter in radio. Robbie's a footballer. He'd grown up watching Sky Sports News. He had not grown up listening to Radio 5 or LBC or TalkSport. So one of the things I had to do with Robbie over those sort of the last year and a half was to phone him up every time something that I thought was interesting on the radio was on. Send him editorials, you know, involve him in the media world. When I come into work on a Monday morning, I've probably got 4 newspaper cuttings with me to show the team. I started sending those to Robbie because all of those things will help him formulate his argument. So when he's arguing with somebody about whether he bought 7 pairs of trainers or not, that argument wasn't about whether he bought 7 pairs of trainers or not. It was about footballers earning too much money. And Robbie needed to learn to formulate an argument about football finance and about footballers being removed from football fans. The other thing to think about, as I said, is to adapt your style, drip feed him. Scripting, you know, with a presenter, I might write a full-on script for Mark Chapman, which he'll probably change, but at least, you know, I would have a full-on script at the top of a show. We realised after about 4 weeks, Robbie panicked if he saw a script in front of him, bullet points. I know it's obvious little things, but actually these are the simplest things that make his working life easier. So I've been working with Robbie about a year, and I got a phone call from him one Sunday morning, a day you'll probably all remember, when he phoned and said that his best friend and ex-Wales teammate Gary Speed had died. And Robbie was obviously completely distraught. So I went to meet him in town, and we sat there and chatted about Gary, and we were due on air at 6 o'clock that evening. And so with my journalist and producer hat on, obviously I'm thinking, we've got a show to do, Robbie's at the heart of this story, But with my, you know, being Joe, his mate, and his producer, I'm thinking, Robbie's just lost his best mate. This is not the best time for him to be doing a show. And so we'd been talking about Gary for a couple of hours, got to lunchtime, and Robbie just said, right, come on then, let's go to the studios. And I was like, what are we doing? And he said, well, we've got a show to do. We've got to set up the show. I said, you know, you sure you want to do this? Of course I want to do this. Like, you know, it's my show, it's my job. And I think the point about that he was so keen to get to his studio is that over the time of those 9 months, he then felt so relaxed in his environment. He was so relaxed in the radio studio, and he kind of engaged with his audience that, you know, when he was going through such a traumatic time, he was quite comfortable to just sit in the studio for an hour and talk about his mate. I'm just going to play you a clip of the end of that show.
You know, I've got to say it's one of the worst days I've had for a long, long time. Hearing the news, shocked, stunned. I've lost a friend. I've lost a teammate. His boys have lost a fantastic dad. You know, Roger's lost a great son. I'm going to miss him.
Katie in Cumbria says Gary always had the common touch, a perfect gentleman. And finally, Jack says, well done tonight to Robbie. I know this must be really hard for you. He said, and you, Dan,
I think you've done well. I think we've done him proud. I hope so.
So I know that's a bit of a sad clip and a strange clip to play, but I think if you contrast that to sort of 9 months earlier when he's screaming liar, liar down the phone about something, it just shows how far Robbie had come, and as I said, how relaxed he felt in his radio environment, in his new home. So that year Robbie went on to do Strictly. He was nominated for the Rising Star Award, won the Sony for the Rising Star Award. It was just such a proud moment for me and for Robbie that 6 phone calls a day. I mean, think about your worst breakfast presenter or your worst drive time presenter. Trust me, footballers and sportsmen are 10 times worse. They need 10 times more reassurance, and they're used to people doing things for them. There was a point where Robbie wanted to do something on the show, and I was adamant this wasn't the right time to do it. It wasn't the right day for it, and he got in a bit of a sulk. He's like, no, I really want to talk about it. No, Robbie, it's not right for today. It's not right for today. And he kind of had a mood, and he went off in one of his moods. And then he phoned me up the next day, and he went, "You're completely right, yesterday. I completely understand." He goes, I'm not really used to people saying no to me. And I think that's a really, really good thing to remember when you're working with high-profile stars. They've got so many people around them that will do anything for them. But ultimately, if you come into my environment, you come into my profession, this is, a radio studio, and you abide by my rules, and it's kind of, don't be afraid to stick to that, because and you've got the experience to know. So, just to summarise, as I said, get your best producers on the team, get your crack team on it, relax your talent, make them feel comfortable in your environment, be that giving him an ISDN in his football ground, or we make the Ronnie Wood show and Ronnie loves espressos, so we bought him a nice espresso machine, just so he feels comfortable that he's coming into his new home. Engage your talent in between shows. Get him involved in the media world. It's a whole new world to him. It's not natural for him to put the radio on first thing in the morning, but if he's going to be a good presenter, he needs to be listening to other radio around him. Adapt your working style. I'm quite a control freak. I like to write my scripts. I like to do everything for them. Doesn't work with Robbie. He just needs 3 bullet points at the top of the show, and he's good to go. And with all presenters, reassure. It's a whole new world for him. All his football mates are listening. A lot of broadcasters are listening, because people will challenge as to why we use sports people as presenters. And it's your job to make sure that when they do a good job, you let them know.
I remember being at the Sony Awards when he won it, and I'm not a big football fan, so it was interesting hearing the story behind how he got to that point.
It's been a great day, lots of good people to talk to, lots of good people to listen to, and learn lots of good things.